I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
And this is Fish Jelly.
Mmm.
It's been a rough week.
It has been.
We're recording this 3 days late.
Well, Joseph came down with the sickness.
Yeah, I was very sick Sunday and Monday. We attempted to record on Tuesday. Like, we recorded the full podcast and realized it didn't save.
Yep.
Which is what I get for recording on a different device than I'm used to. So here we are on Wednesday. Here we are on Wednesday. But there's
happy days.
Yeah, but there's been a lot going on. We can start with Drag Race.
Oh, God.
All Stars.
We gotta talk about that again.
Season 6, episode 7. The challenge was the queens had to write verses to RuPaul's sure-to-be classic song, which I can't even recall the name. Up with Queens or Queens All Night or I don't know.
Up with Queens, up with people.
But it's supposed to be an uplifting song. So I thought for the most part everyone did a good job. In the bottom were Jan and Pandora. Jan was in the bottom because her lyrics didn't really reflect the challenge.
And she's clueless, yeah.
Right. And Pandora, her lyrics were weak and her performance was weak. She was on a team with 3 dancers, Trinity, Raja, and Jan. Mm-hmm. And they were very patient with her, but yeah, her performing was weak. So those 2 were in the bottom.
Well, and it didn't help that she was kind of, because the first episode for her talent, she sang a song of a certain style that she's repeating here, which doesn't...
That's right. When in the workroom, Pandora's asked, like, how do you plan on, like, setting yourself, winning this challenge? She says, well, I'm basically going to do my talent show song, but with a different theme, which didn't sound like a winning combination. But Trinity wins the challenge. I thought she was excellent, especially considering on her season 7? Yeah. No, 8.
6.
6. She went home on a rap challenge. She struggled.
In front of Eve and Trina.
Embarrassed herself. So I thought it was really cool that she came back so strong rapping. She also seems to have somewhat of a speech impediment.
Yeah.
Which may be due to like lack of self-confidence, but also her dental situation. Which I do want to comment on because, when she won the $10,000 last week?
Yeah.
She said, oh, I can buy, do you know what I can buy with $10,000?
Yeah.
A washer and dryer, a freezer full of meat, or a used car. My first thought was, bitch, buy some teeth.
Yeah.
Buy some fucking teeth. Actually, my next dentist appointment is in 2 hours. Uh-huh. So I know we dropped a video 2 days ago where I'm not wearing the mask, but we had recorded that video 2 months ago.
Before I went to Cannes.
Oh, so a month ago.
Yeah.
But today will officially be the day I stop wearing the mask. And I have a lot of plastic teeth in my mouth, and $10,000 would have covered it.
Yeah, would have.
And I live in Los Angeles, so I know Trinity can get some teeth in Atlanta. Or do what Akira did and get online and buy those fancy Halloween teeth.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I should have looked it up before. You can get custom molded teeth that fit like Halloween teeth. And I think that's what Akira must have done. But they look fantastic. They look perfect.
Yeah, look good.
So I don't understand why Trinity gets on here with those Mr. Ed. But anyway, good for her. So Trinity lip syncs against Alexis Mateo, and she doesn't win. So the vote...
Her wig fell off.
Her damn wig fell off. She's supposed to be a lip sync assassin, and she's lost 2 lip syncs, but the group votes to send Pandora and Jan home. It's a tie. So it's the first time in All Stars history there's a tie. So Trinity, her lipstick is the deciding factor. And this bitch sends Jan home. And I thought what Trinity said to Jan was really sweet. Like how she admires her and stay on 110. I thought that was sweet, but the reality is I'm glad Jan went home.
And the reality is that's bad advice, Jan.
Yeah, don't stay at 110. Okay, next I was going to talk about America's Next Top Model because I spent almost all of last week watching it.
Yes, you did.
And Nick doesn't like when I do things I enjoy, but here we are.
That's not it. It's just such...
Your attitude when you just said it sound like you don't consider the fact that I might have enjoyed watching it.
No, I did.
You just don't like it.
I made an attempt to watch some of it with you. It's just found
I didn't ask you to watch it with me.
Well, I just found it.
So, but anyway, I'm glad you did watch some of it because you have some opinions. So, the reason I started watching it was I have decided I want to learn American Sign Language a few weeks ago, which is something I've been thinking about for a while. And someone who maybe inspired me, I think, to want to learn ASL was Niall DeMarco.
Not Helen Keller, not Marley Matlin.
I don't know those people.
You know Marley Matlin.
I do have a Marley Matlin story, but no, Niall DeMarco is the winner of Cycle 22 of America's Next Top Model. So thinking about that, and then I thought, oh, maybe I should rewatch some America's Next Top Model because, a while back, Tyra got like retroactively canceled for her behavior on America's Next Top Model. So I
didn't know that.
Oh yeah, this was like maybe a year ago or.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, I Googled and I think I got like a BuzzFeed article on like the most like the best seasons of America's Next Top Model because there are so many, and number one was season 3. So I went and rewatched season 3, and season 3 is the season where Ava Pigford won, who then changed her name to Eva Marcel. And I think for people who don't watch America's Next Top Model, they might know Eva from Real Housewives of Atlanta. But I'm not going to go on and on except to say that I can see why people watching the show in later years really had a problem with the content.
Oh, I remember having a problem with it then, but even watching it now, it's jaw-droppingly misogynist, racist.
Oh my God.
Body shaming.
Yeah. So many examples. So season 3, there's a contestant, I believe her name's Kelly. I could be wrong. But she admits in confessional that she suffers from bulimia. And the girls also suspect she does. And then there's a moment where she vanishes for like 45 minutes. And then someone says that they heard and can smell that she vomited. And the way that's handled on the show is is definitely exploitative. There's no concern. When Tyra sort of confronts her about it, she basically says like, well, stop that and you should get help. Like,
yeah, but I'm not.
But in the same show, you're telling people they're too fat, too skinny, suck in your belly, you look like a hog or a whale.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. But probably what's more shocking to me, and this bothers me since forever, and it still happens today, is people using the word ghetto to describe like black shit or black people. And that drives me fucking crazy. And on the show,
Janice Dickinson.
Oh, you can call out everyone.
Oh, yeah.
They all use that word. Oh my God.
Well,
there's the non-white contestants. Well, they are the non-white contestants and the non-black contestants and non-black judges use that language.
Yeah.
Referring to girls with like quote unquote ghetto names and
yeah,
it's just outrageous.
But it reflects. I was noticing in other more obvious but subtler ways, perhaps, because on that different season where they have that antagonizing photo shoot with on the tennis set.
Yeah.
And all of them are excited to see how the black girls are going to react.
Season 4, Tiffany and Brandy, who are the two black girls who are painted as like really hostile.
But even one of them was saying that, well, they associate me with anger. And it's like, yep, just reinforcing the same old stereotypes about black women.
Right. And that character that contestant who said it, Brandy, it's like part of what made her so beautiful is her face. Mm-hmm. And her sort of like resting face has this amazing structure. It's very intense. And it's like, so you cast me as a participant because of how I look. And then the entire time I'm on the show, you make it out like I'm this angry, hostile black woman. When it's like, no, my face is beautiful. That's why I'm on the show.
Right.
And even her hair, she had this like weaved in afro puff that was red. And they couldn't stop commenting on that. And then when it's time for the makeover, they tell her like, we want you to keep it. We like it. But then she kind of throws a hissy fit like, no, I want to make over like everyone else. Everyone else is getting full change. Mm-hmm. So they cut out her weave and just leave her with like a junior afro. But yeah, also season 4, there's a photo shoot where they have all of the models change their ethnicity. So there are contestants doing full on blackface. There's a black contestant who they make Asian.
Which it sounds like Cloud Atlas.
Oh my God. As I was watching it, I remember watching it as it was happening 17 years ago, but to rewatch it in 2021, I was appalled. And the things people were saying, and I know we evolve and we should be allowed to grow.
For sure.
And I'm sure the people who participated, including Tyra Banks, made a statement saying that she's heard of all the hullabaloo, and upon, revisiting those topics, she recognizes how problematic their approach was. But so I understand like times change and we should be allowed to grow. But yeah, it's hard to watch. Also, there's a contestant on season 4 who has impetigo, and that poor girl, they drag it out for 3 episodes that she is like suffering from some flesh eating bacteria, or like that poor thing. They make her look so crazy. And I'm sure from the point where she was breaking out to when she visits the dermatologist wasn't that long. But they really make it a storyline.
Oh yeah, you just need to slap some antibiotic cream on that shit and it goes away.
Right. I just like, wow, that poor girl will always be known as the bitch with impetigo.
That reminds me of that. There's a
Peaches
song, "Touch Me and I'll Give You Impetigo."
Yeah.
It just boggles my mind that they actually had this popular television show that everybody watched. I hate how the gays talk to women in that. I hate how some of these dumb girls make homophobic comments about Miss J. I just it's mind-boggling.
Homophobic and transphobic.
Yes, and they
and Miss J Manuel, who I can't stand.
Oh yeah.
The comments he makes, like fat shaming and he's a big culprit of saying people are too black, too ghetto, and I don't know how J Manuel identifies. I'm assuming he would be Latinx in 2021. But, can't stand him.
Well, his hair, nobody read him for Phil.
Actually, the only person on the show, well, seasons 3 and 4 that I thought were who I thought was the most tolerable was Janice Dickinson. Because she's ridiculous.
Yeah, she is.
And she owns it. And I don't think it's appropriate per se, and I don't like it. But somehow, upon rewatching those 2 seasons, Janice Dickinson comes off as the least problematic. And that's a problem.
That is a problem.
If Janice Dickinson seems like... Because she seems more self-aware.
Yeah. Yeah, she is.
Right?
More than like she's not saying the same stupid things. She's saying problematic things.
Right.
She doesn't come across as dumb.
Well, okay, so Tyra Banks, because now I'm watching Cycle 22 with Niall DeMarco, and still 17 or what was that? 13 years later, Tyra Banks still can't shut up.
No, the thing is, she's very beautiful to look at.
She is,
but she should just have her pictures taken and not try to talk, act, sing, or I guess express opinions. Because, like, when we recorded this earlier, I was thinking, y'all want to hate on Wendy Williams, but I mean, it's Tyra's exponentially
I think Tyra, and then I did watch almost every episode of the Tyra Banks show, and she did interview Janet Jackson on the show like 4 times.
Those are such terrible,
and they are so
interviews.
cringy. They are so cringy, but Tyra has the worst interview skills.
I mean, I remember her asking Janet if she farts, what kind of cereal, like just.
Yeah, no, but I mean, every episode someone would reveal something like, I was molested by my father, and Tyra will bring it right back to herself. Well, and when I was 18, I did a photo shoot with this one person, and they, wanted me to take off my bra, but I had to stand up and say no. So I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
And, well, girl, what are you talking about?
Yeah. But I think my comments about what very casually watching the show in the background while you've had it on is they don't give these women and later men tools to succeed. Like,
right.
They have these inexperienced people from all over, and then are supposedly training them to be a model, but then
That's right.
throw them out there, cast them to the wolves, and then
Shame them
and judge them and tear them down.
Yep.
And then make them get at the shrill, fever, angsty, desperate pitch, so that all you have them doing is crying every episode and screaming about how their dreams are ending.
Right.
And,
Yeah, no, because when you think America's Next Top Model, you think, okay, it's either going to be experienced models, like how Drag Race has experienced drag queens. So you have people at the top of their game with like a strong skill set and craft performing. Or like you said, or it's even like Project Runway. These are talented
you don't have
garment
people that
makers.
don't sew on Project Runway.
Right, but then on America's Next Top Model, you have people who have no clue about modeling, and then you spend the entire time shaming them. It just feels so manipulative.
It's cruel and unusual, and I think it's also a testament to our culture that we, dive into these things and love them.
That being said, I lapped up these episodes, and I will continue to watch them because it's a fucking train wreck.
It's a train wreck, but
I feel bad watching it. But not unlike when I eat McDonald's, and I won't stop.
Well,
so.
I have to leave the room because it makes me angry.
Well,
like many things do. But
you're a better person than all of us.
I don't think it's about being a better person. It just puts me in a headspace that is frustrating, and my energy.
Well, let's segue to something that you feel like your energy is better spent on. Are these film festivals? So you were going to talk about several.
That's what we're okay. Well, yeah, there's a lot going on. Because Cannes kind of. I'm glad it happened, but usually it's in May, so there's a breathing room. But oh my God, there's Locarno starts today. I'm covering that remotely. There are a couple things that I'm very excited about that I just want to highlight, including After Blue by Bertrand Mandico, whose 2017 The Wild Boys got a lot of attention. Kind of an up and coming art house queer filmmaker. His next film that's premiering in competition to Locarno is After Blue, science fiction weirdo gonzo sounding film. So yeah, I'm covering remotely, but not all of Locarno's titles. In fact, a lot of their program is not going to be available digitally, and this is one of them, but thankfully I do have an opportunity to see it. I'm also very excited for Medea by Alexander Zeldovich. And as the title indicates, it does have to do with the Greek tragedy. Zeldovich, it's been a decade since he's made a film. His last movie was Target in 2011, which I think I saw at AFI, which is an overly long but very interesting kind of sci-fi take on Anna Karenina. And then a horror film starring Franz Rogowski called Lucifer by Peter Brunner, which is not a filmmaker I'm familiar with, but he did a film, Brunner, with Caleb Landry Jones in 2018, I think called To the Night, which fascinating poster and logline that I still haven't seen and played somewhere, again, like Locarno or Karlovy Vary.
Okay.
You just want me to run through all this shit?
Well, Venice. I don't know what order you want to go through.
Okay, so then Venice, which I plan on attending for the first time ever physically, is of course September 1st through 10th. Because usually I do TIFF every year. Since 2007, I've done TIFF every year. Obviously couldn't go last year. Again, TIFF is doing a digital hybrid this year, which will make it easier for me to also cover TIFF, actually. But Venice has a really great lineup. I'm very excited to go. I mean, if you've ever seen Don't Look Now or The Comfort of Strangers, like, Venice is the perfect kind of moody, noirish, gothic city, obviously. But what I'm excited for in the competition in Venice are, several titles, but The Card Counter from Paul Schrader. Paul Schrader is known for kind of sounding off online all the time on his Facebook, and he was making comments about this Cuomo business, about how hard is it to just not keep your hands to yourself.
How hard is it to keep your hands to
right?
Yeah.
Like it is possible.
Yeah.
And then like an hour later, he posts, Focus Features has asked me not to post anything else until for several months because he has this new film coming out. Michelangelo Frambertino, who hasn't had a film since Le Quattro Volte. Again, I think 2010 has a new feature that everybody's been waiting for forever called The Hole. Anna Lily Amirpour, who's known for The Girl Who Walks Home Alone at Night and The Bad Batch, she's back with a very intriguing sounding film called Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon. Jane Campion is back with The Power of the Dog. Michel Franco, who's a very divisive filmmaker, but I'll watch anything he does. He's You Saw a New Order, which is Michel Franco.
Okay.
His new film is called Sundown, which I think is a surprise film that people thought might be a can. Nothing to do with the Gordon Lightfoot song, obviously. And then Ukrainian filmmaker Valentin Vasyanovich, who's, I think his debut was called Atlantis in 2019, which played in Verizon in Venice.
There were a lot of question marks in that statement.
I mean, because I saw it at TIFF, but it was a Venice Horizons film. Was a very good film, and his newest is in competition called Reflection, which I'm very excited for. For Venice Sidebars, I have to highlight I believe in Horizons. Oleg Sentsov has a new film, Rhino, and then the opening film of that side panel is Promises by Thomas Krutoff, starring my lady Isabelle Huppert.
Okay.
What else? TIFF, has always been a poo-poo platter of festivals from throughout the world with several of its own premieres. Will be required viewing for me, Inexorable from Fabrice Duwels, the Belgian horror filmmaker. You've seen his first film, Calvaire, which is a favorite. I love Alleluia from 2014, which is kind of a more vicious take on the Honeymoon Killers, which I highly recommend you still see. You've eluded me on this still. But mostly I'm excited for the premiere of The Good House at TIFF, starring Sigourney Weaver and Kevin Kline, who are reuniting for the third time. Directed by Maya Forbes and Wallace Wolodarski. Several years ago, it's based on a novel that I've read that I really liked, by Anne Leary, who's the wife of actor-comedian Dennis Leary. And she's written a couple books. But Sigourney's playing this woman who is it's kind of a romantic film, or novel, but it's also really depressing because she's this struggling alcoholic. I lost my train of thought. A couple years ago, it was going to be adapted, starring Meryl Streep and Robert De Niro, and Michael Cunningham, who wrote The Hours, had adapted the script. But that got scrapped, and now Thomas Bazooka, who directed Let Him Go last year, which I really liked, has adapted this version for Kline and Weaver. So yes, you, of all people, know I'm very excited for this.
Okay. Are you done with film festivals?
No.
Okay, well, keep going.
Taking a breath. Oh, I forgot to mention that in Venice I hope to catch Dune and Halloween Kills. But San Sebastian, which I've never been to, also September. They have a fantastic lineup this year. The cachet of films that have been waiting to premiere, I think, has really benefited all these festivals. Laurent Contet, Terrence Davies has a new film, which is also playing a TIFF, Benediction. For Alejandro Amenabar, Paco Plaza, Manuel Martin Cuenca, but mostly out of San Sebastian. I'm very excited for the new film from Claudia Llosa, Fever Dream, which I just read the book that's based on. And I'm just finishing the book Earwig by B. Catling, which Lucille Hadjihalilovic has adapted. She's the partner of Gaspar Noé, whose previous films Innocence and Evolution are fascinating and beautiful and creepy. Earwig is a fantastically strange book, and I cannot wait to see this. I haven't seen them playing at any other festivals, but I hope to get to those somehow, somewhere. Excuse me. And then last but not least, I guess... Fantasia Fest is going on right now as well. I had wanted to cover The Deep House, but they aren't having screeners for that, from Alexander Bustillo and Julian Maury, who we just watched Candisha. They're best known for Inside.
Okay.
But I did watch a really great 3-hour documentary last night from Fantasia, which premiered at South by Southwest, called Woodland's Dark Days Bewitched by Kier La Yanis, who I have her book, House of Psychotic Women. But it's a 3-hour documentary on folk horror film and literature, which, if that's your jam, it was fascinating and engaging and a lovely melange of these great horror texts, which I highly recommend. And then at the end of the month, I'm covering several films for Japan Cuts in New York, which has their yearly retrospective, basically, of recent high-profile and some lesser-profile items in Japanese cinema. I basically, one of the films I missed from Venice last year was Wife of a Spy, and they are showcasing that from Kiyoshi Kurosawa, who is a genre filmmaker-ish, kind of like films of existential dread, like Pulse and Kier are requisite viewing, but always fascinating. He did a period espionage film for the first time about kind of colonialist terrorism in Manchuria, with Japan on the eve of World War II. Excellent film. He won Best Director, I think, in Venice, Wife of a Spy. I do hope to catch up with The Great Yokai War from Takashi Miike, which yokai was not a term I'm familiar with, but they just used that in Suicide Squad last night. And Labyrinth of Cinema from Nobuhiko Obayashi. Obayashi, of course, is best known for his like bizarro film House, which Criterion kind of refurbished and brought back to the world. But he died, so this was his last film from 2019, so I'm excited to catch up with that. And that, I believe, is all my film festival stuff.
Moving on to movies you watched that you didn't make videos for. So, bestseller.
Oh, yeah, just random stuff we watched throughout the week. You watched part of this with me. Basically, I had a Brian Dennehy, James Woods double feature. Bestseller. Director's John Flynn, who I've seen his film Brain Scan because the poster art for it intrigued me, but that movie is not good. But bestseller stars Brian Dennehy as a Joseph Wambaugh style cop he's also a writer who's approached by a mobster played by James Woods to write his story, and it is head on ridiculous.
Yeah.
Watching Brian Dennehy huff and puff and run around, which I was curious, you mentioned that you had thoughts on Brian Dennehy.
Oh, he's strangely appealing.
Yeah.
Like, I've always thought he was kind of... But I also thought Al Bundy from Married with Children was very attractive as a kid. And so, yeah, he's probably like that coach dad type.
Sure. He reminds me of an old college friend's dad.
Yeah.
Strangely. But yeah, he's running around huffing and puffing with James Woods, who is not really a screen presence I care for. And then I had rewatched Split Image, which they are both in and share some scenes, but with Michael O'Keefe and Peter Fonda and Karen Allen, which I know I've seen before because I went back and checked, but there was so much glorious ridiculousness I forgot about in Split Image, which is about Michael O'Keefe, this young white angel getting subsumed into this cult. Oh, and the wonderful Elizabeth Ashley, who plays his mother. If you've never seen Windows, Elizabeth Ashley is this lesbian stalker that was directed by Gordon Willis, who I have to say really does know how to film with black light, like with blackness. The shadows in that in Windows are scary, but it's a crap film. Anyhow, I want, in a perfect world, I would have a double feature of Split Image and my favorite Strangers with Candy episode that is paying homage to that, because Deborah Rush, who's the stepmother in Strangers with Candy, is in Split Image. But almost all of the sequences in that Strangers with Candy episode where Jerry Blank is abducted by a cult are lifted directly from Split Image.
Wife of a Spy?
Well, I just talked about that.
Oh, you did? Or Reservation Road?
So you weren't listening.
Well, you say a lot of things. A lot of words are happening. Mm-hmm. Okay, Reservation Road. Well, you're not talking to... you're talking to the people who be listening to you. You need to focus more on them and not me. So go ahead. Reservation Road. Go on.
Okay. Reservation Road. Well, that was my first TIFF. I remember seeing that in the lineup, and I'd never seen it. Terry George directed. He's probably best known for Hotel Rwanda, and it's just one of those films that has this really great cast that I think was well received at the time, but now plays kind of like old hat. But basically, Mark Ruffalo and Joaquin Phoenix are these dads, and one night on Reservation Road, Mark Ruffalo kills Joaquin Phoenix's son. And then hides that fact and is a lawyer, so ends up being assigned to help Joaquin Phoenix with his case, and of course gets his just desserts. And then their wives or ex-wives are played by Jennifer Connelly and Mira Sorvino. And Elle Fanning is a little girl in it, which yeah, I wouldn't say that it was anything that great, but
All done?
yeah.
Okay, now you want to list your top 5 releases for July.
Well, yeah, because now we're in August, so yeah, films that, as we've been doing at the end of every month, films that...
Well, this is your list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did I hope you agree? I had a different... Let's see. No Sudden Move.
Okay.
Directed by Steven Soderbergh. Mama Weed, starring Isabelle Huppert, which you did see.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pig, starring Nicolas Cage.
Saw that too.
Blood Red Sky on Netflix.
Watched that as well.
And David Lowery's The Green Knight.
And I didn't watch that. Okay, moving on. You had some mini topics you wanted to get to before we get to the main topic?
Well, I brought them up when we recorded this earlier, so I didn't know if you wanted to re-comment on them, but
Well, we just recommented on everything else. So go ahead.
Well, Scarlett...
You brought up Scarlett Johansson suing Disney.
Yeah.
Over the digital release of that movie she was in.
Black Widow.
Yeah, so we had discussed that. You brought up some interesting points, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, just, immediately reminded me of, back in the days when Judy Garland and Bette Davis and many others were fighting their rigid studio contracts. In those days, it was for better parts. Now it's all about money. But still, I think just as important, one for gender parity, of course, but I think it's an important... for her to use her platform to do this in several ways. But obviously, nobody anticipated this pandemic happening, and this was a film like many of these that filmed before that. So built into their contracts wasn't anything about, PVOD sales. But just, I think what's more interesting is how Disney responded to her, which was very dismissive. Rather than, I just found that curious.
Well, I think I think today is like National Women's Equal Pay Day or something.
Oh, really?
I believe, and I think bringing up, what Bette Davis went through with the studios, among many other female stars back then, was frustrating, and they were fighting for something that was right. I think. I don't know the details of the contract this lady signed with Disney, obviously. I do have some business acumen, and I from my angle, it's like, how could anyone have known when she signed this contract probably 3 or 4 years ago that we would be hit with a global pandemic and everything be shut down for 1+ year? But if in the contract it doesn't stipulate that we cannot... Because the thought of releasing a blockbuster film digitally was just unheard of, right? So no one thought to include that in any sort of contract, I'm sure. So it's just kind of like, well, that's how the cookie crumbles, girl. That's just like how many people have lost their jobs, got their hours cut. I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve what's hers. I just think that, reading the fine print and it's just like, okay, so we have insurance on our home, but we don't have earthquake insurance. And we know that we don't. And many people in California don't because it's very expensive. So if an earthquake comes and our shit crumbles to the ground, it's like, well, like we knew that we don't have it. Not that she knew that there could be a pandemic and that the film wouldn't be released in theaters, but I just think like sometimes shit happens and it seems unfair, but it's also like these studios also took a big hit during this time. So they're trying to recoup in the best way they can. And if they're not in breach of contract, it's just like, well, and I don't know if her legal counsel advised her to proceed with this suit and make it very public in hopes that that would pressure Disney to offer her something. But, you know, it is very interesting. And I think, equal pay is very different from just like, well, you kind of had a shitty contract. Like every black musician in the...
No, but I'm saying, not like it's for Scarlett's sake. I think the cumulative effect it will have on forcing these studios to kind of reconsider compensations, perhaps, in a fluctuating market that they haven't kept up with. I mean, even prior to the pandemic, I think.
Sure, but we don't know the details of these contracts. We also know that, yes, there are a handful of films that are guaranteed to make a huge amount of money. But there are also so many films that get made, distributed, that don't make any money.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of these... I know these larger studios don't fund these small films because it's not worth the energy. But somehow they have to recoup. It is a business. So... I don't know. It seems more complicated than... And also, it's like, I don't know that Scarlett Johansson is, like, an inspiring, like, poster child for this issue.
Trailblazer.
Yeah, like, oh, this... Who people consider beautiful, I don't. But this beautiful white woman who's very... Well, she's very regular, and she has those yellow-ass teeth. But, she's considered someone who's, like, beautiful, successful. This white lady who has this role... for a character that I don't find very interesting. And then she missed out on who knows, $50-30 million potential profit off this film. It's like, well, I don't know. It doesn't seem that tragic. It just seems like you're you're a victim of circumstance to this sort of incident that no one could have predicted. So it is very interesting. And of course, I would love to know how it evolves.
Well, yeah. Well, it already is, because you have headlines about Emma Stone reconsidering if she wants to take action around Cruella. Dwayne Johnson has already said he will not on Jungle Cruise.
Moving on, the other topic was Matt Damon using the F-slur.
So I saw this headline, and I initially thought, my brain was like, oh, so Matt Damon's not saying fuck anymore.
Right, like what the hell?
What's the F-slur?
What is the F-slur?
And then it's like, oh, I'm the F-slur.
I'm an F-slur.
So it came back, because it kept gaining attention all of a sudden. And then I'm like, oh, he's not saying faggot anymore. And why is this a thing? And why is this being brought up? And why did he say this?
When I read the headline that Matt Damon gave an interview where he's saying that he learned from his daughter to stop using the F-slur, I knew it was taken out of context. There is no way an A-list star at his level would be stupid enough to admit that he uses derogatory language and that his teenage daughter had to gather him like a ponytail. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So then, of course, there was all this attention around it. And then he gave a subsequent statement saying that he was trying to make an example of how language changes and how, certain words were used and now they're not appropriate, and that he used that word to demonstrate something, but that he said he has never actually, as an adult, called anyone the F-slur. And, I'm dubious and skeptical about most people and things, but I am very prone to believe that this man is not homophobic. I don't believe that he runs around yelling faggot to people. And I think that initial headline was taken out of context. And really the biggest thing I got from the story was, what the fuck is the F-slur?
Right.
And then when I realized that I'm an F-slur, I was kind of shocked. I didn't realize people referred to it as the F-slur.
They do, just like, the R word and the N word, but...
Right, but we say R word, N word, and then we do say the F word, but we all know F word is fuck. So, yeah, when I heard F-slur, then I'm like, oh, that.
Yeah.
So I learned something new. Thanks, Matt Damon. Matt
Matt
Damon.
Damon. Yeah, I just don't quite understand. Like, again, that's my problem kind of with cancel culture. Because when I realize what the headline was trying to say, initially I was kind of disappointed. Like, oh no, he's not a homophobe, is he? But then reading through the article, it's just like, why is this an issue when he is trying, I think by bringing that up in his way, to suggest there's a discourse between the private and personal sphere and realm, and sharing that tidbit
Right.
from his own life, which is great, and also kind of like
But
pointless.
But also, if we consider, like, people are so quick to attempt to shut people down, cancel people, be so upset, when in reality, most people I know speak very differently in private than they do when they know people are listening.
Yes.
So I think it's really unfair to be so offended by the words people may say when it's like, you know damn well that when you're at home and your uncle and your dad and your grandma use language that's way worse, and you couldn't love them more, couldn't support them more, can't wait to post pictures of you with the fam. And it's like, okay, but based on your criteria, those people are more problematic than Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Or a host of other celebrities and public figures who you're so quick to be offended by. And it's like, but your own fucking sister says horrific shit. And it's like every Instagram post is twinsies, love, like. So I just think it's very hypocritical to have these opinions when
Well,
we take everything out of context anyway.
But, well, especially compared to maybe like DaBaby and the fallout with that, and I don't even know specifically what comments he made, but just the backlash. Again, I can't, based on what I do know of his comments, I'm not going to come out in defense of this man, but also, like, should he be without a job ever again?
Well, I
like,
listened to his comments, and they did bother me because he's very misinformed.
right, but that's
And
the
then
thing,
he
like,
didn't double down per se. It's just that he demonstrated his ignorance by stating, like, well, my fans don't do the things that would get you. He's equating being HIV positive and having certain STIs
Yes,
as being
yeah,
like
I knew
some
it's-
sort- right. So I think it is an interesting question. Like, okay, so he's, misinformed and an idiot, but so are a lot of people. And do they deserve to be unemployed?
well, what about working on informing him then and enlightening him rather than canceling him?
I think the issue is if you're like a Lollapalooza and your sort of mission statement and your foundation is based on sort of inclusion, like, can you have someone headlining or being a main stage performer who's saying these non-inclusive things? And I would say, no, you have an image to uphold, right? Like, so I think I think it's very fair that people should be able to say whatever they want, and you can be as dumb and as ignorant as you can be. But the reality is, if you want to align yourself with entities that don't subscribe to those things, then you're putting that in jeopardy. So the best thing to do is to just shut up and sing your song. Like, why do you want to
Like
take
the Dixie Chicks?
right? Like, why do you want to take like a 1 minute break in between songs and go on some rant that's just that is going to go viral? Everyone's recording. It just demonstrates ignorance, bravado, stupidity, and in that regard, it makes someone like a loose cannon, and that will affect endorsements, right? Like, I'm not gonna if I'm Starbucks or like McDonald's. McDonald's has been doing a lot of advertising with like social media, like Saweetie just like they're doing these like combo meals, like the Saweetie combo meal. And it's like, now they're not going to do a DaBaby combo meal because he's liable to say some dumb shit. So it's just like, you can say whatever you want, dude. I do like that song Levitating by Dua Lipa featuring DaBaby, and I'm not going to take it off my mix, but and I don't think that like DaBaby is like God hates fags. I just think that he made an ignorant comment.
Yes.
And then the problem is the people who are defending him, like T.I.,
Well, yeah, that.
who's also a moron.
Well, and then like throwing Lil Nas X's name in there. It's like, no, that also makes this worse because that's two different. What he's saying is wrong and ignorant. But how do we turn that, rather than defending his right to free speech, how do we try to, kind of rehabilitate that?
You know what? Just like I'm tired of educating white people on racism, I'm tired of educating dumb straight dudes on why the shit they say is homophobic and transphobic. If you don't want to take the time to understand how your words have power and that you need to choose them carefully, then lose all your coins, lose all your jobs, because you are making a lot of money as a public figure and you're not interested in taking the time to curate what the fuck you say.
No, of course, I'm tired of that too and agree with that too. But then, like, let's bring a little intersectionality into it. And like, this is a black man. I think we need to, because it struck me that, Elton John came out hard against him. But it's like, I recall Elton John getting up there and singing a song with Eminem saying they're just words, talking about F-slurs with Eminem's. So it's like, well, where is that same kind of untoward and unexpected compassion for DaBaby? Like,
Sure. And I think that there was, the difference with Eminem was there was clearly a choice by Eminem to want to move forward. And so
but there was time to, maybe that's just the world we're living in. There's no time. Like this has become a viral headline.
You're right.
And
I think because things spread so quickly that it's like, well, the fire is raging, and then DaBaby chose to make an additional statement that just inflamed it.
Yeah.
So I think with time, I'm sure there's going to be some video. There's going to be some sit down with Ellen, or I don't know
Not
who,
Ellen.
or Kevin Hart, or I don't know, talking about how he's, he understands what he said was wrong and blah blah blah. I don't think that man should be removed from the face of the earth, but I do think that his employers have a right to say that your viewpoints don't align with our message, so you're not a good fit for this program. That's all I'm saying. I don't think, like, if he, how he views people's behaviors and their ethics and morals is he's entitled to that. It's just stupid for him to say it out loud. I have viewpoint. You've heard me say things that if people heard me say them, they would be appalled by. But it's like, I'm smart enough to know that they're not appropriate. I'm saying a lot of things because I think I'm funny within a small group. And I recognize that if I were to say them in a more public way, I would get in trouble. And I don't want that. I also don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Right.
That's probably the main reason why I don't say a lot of things, is I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I don't want to make people feel isolated. So sucks for him, I guess. Because even Lil Boozy was commenting on like how it's a shame that he's being targeted for his comments. And it's just like, I don't know. You people have millions of followers and you have an audience.
Well, I see that's the problem. So the people are going to come to his defense, but like, we need to talk about what the real problem was, these ignorant comments, and how do we move beyond that? Because just silencing him is not the answer. Like,
right.
Canceling him is not the answer.
Well, I think the answer is what you're saying is, like, we really need to dissect his comments and remove him from them and talk about why they are so upsetting,
right,
and why they're inaccurate,
right,
and misleading,
because
that they can perpetuate violence and stigmatization.
T.I.'s comments are like, you're letting Lil Nas X live his life, but this is DaBaby's reality. No, this reality, this is ignorance. So where do we go from here? Right.
Like, yeah. Okay, so we have like a little over 10 minutes left. The topic for today I was going to call 15 minutes, so I ran a little, like, we're a little short. But this arose because of you talking and thinking about the film The Green Knight. So better explain.
Well, can I articulate this correctly? Well, so The Green Knight, if you haven't seen it, released by A24, is a medieval poem. It's based on the medieval poem, Middle English poem, Sir Gawain in The Green Knight, which David Lowery had an excellent adaptation of, I thought. But, what is this 14th century poem recalibrated by this artist saying for today? Because even when I talked through the plot with you and we recorded our review, which, I wish you had seen it, I think it's still a film that a couple weeks later now is stuck with me, because, like, what are we really talking about with Sir Gawain, who takes up this charge to, in essence, lay a blow on this Green Knight that curses him. In a year's time, he has to go basically be decapitated because, but he did this thing because that's what was expected for, the chivalric romance of the time, like to display that he is brave and all the things that you wanted to be back then as a medieval knight. But this very thing that you sought, this fame and notoriety, is also what is going to cause your death. Basically, the fate is your death. And while you were watching all of these top model seasons, that's all I could think about is these young women are kind of doing the same thing as Sir Gawain, across all reality television, is trying to elevate yourself on this faulty scenario of fame, fortune, and celebrity by, in essence, being played, being manipulated, being made a tool and a fool, and you do get a little shine, but it also ends you, which is how I was relating the Green Knight to Next Top Model.
Right. Yeah. So, like, thinking about reality TV, like, in current time, reality TV, social media, so people on TikTok, Instagram, people making YouTube videos, podcasts, there is the potential, even on a small scale, I think people think like, oh, like I need to go viral to make an impact. Not really. There are people I know who work like with children, and they do porn, and they have Twitter pages where like I can see them doing porn, like they're doing porn, but they also work at like they're a preschool teacher, and they're not famous. They don't have 1 million followers on Twitter. They have like 1,000. But if one of those parents at the school saw that you do porn and these videos are just up on Twitter, I'm pretty sure that would cause a lot of problems.
That's the subject of the film that won Berlin this year by Radu Jude, Bad Luck Banging or Loony Porn.
Yeah, I recall you saying that. So, I think that we need to consider like the choices we make. Are we really thinking about the potential outcomes? Like every time you post something on any platform, or the people who audition and get on these bullshit reality shows where you get no money, but now your face is plastered all over something in perpetuity that could potentially go viral.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking of what's the 34-year-old from Love is Blind.
Love is Blind, but all those shows that are for like a week, it's like water cooler talk, and then they have, you have this big impact and everyone recalls your face. But really, you get nothing from it. Maybe you gain 100,000 Instagram followers, so now you're getting sponsored to showcase like protein powder and underwear. So you made a couple $1,000s, but that's nothing in comparison to now people associate you with this ridiculous thing you did. And what is the ripple effect? How's that going to affect your future romantic endeavors? How does that affect your career?
Well, now we have these people on multiple reality television platforms, like the guy from Top Model that did The Circle.
Right. And then the girl who was on
a 180.
Yeah. Or the girl who was on Too Out to Handle and then's on The Circle. But I mean, we know people who have done, like who have been on popular TV shows or popular reality shows, and then time has passed and they really haven't done anything else. But people still recognize them for that thing. And I wonder, like, what is the long-term effect of that? Like, you did something... because I know someone who was on a very popular TV show going on 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Who, to this day, if they're out, people recognize them. But they haven't parlayed that into a career that has anything to do with entertainment. They don't have money. They don't live a fancy life. But because people recognize them, there's an expectation that they have a certain lifestyle. So there's this constant confrontation that your life is a disappointment.
Right.
I just don't think people think about that. These people who go viral with some stupid dance on TikTok or whatever, it's like you don't really make money. You don't really make money off of that.
Right.
But then people recognize you. So how does that affect your trajectory moving forward? For the next 5 years, are people going to, is every interaction going to be tainted because it's like, I only want to talk to you because I recognize you from this thing. So all of the connections I'm making for the next few years are going to be fake. I don't know. It's just something to consider. And when you were telling me the story of the Green Knight, the first thing I said, well, who wants to play that dumb game?
Right. Well, because I'm like, if this monster is saying all you have to do is strike a blow, just go like prick him with the knife.
Yeah, why would I play this game? And then
this man straight up decapitates him.
Yeah, so then it's like, okay, so now you're going to be decapitated in a year and a day. But it's like, yeah, would I do a reality show? Would I do, sure, depending on what it is. But I think we only have a few minutes left. But I think a lot of it is based on the individual, where they're coming from, and what they're trying to attain. A lot of the people who get wrapped up in this tend to be younger. They want attention, they want celebrity, they want money, because they're equating that with success.
Yeah.
But I feel like someone like me, and I'm assuming you feel the same way, is like, well, I already have made a nice life for myself. I already have an education and a career and money and a house and a nice car. So I'm not looking for those things. I think I just want something fun to do. So doing the YouTube videos is fun for like, I enjoy editing them, and I enjoy all the comments, like, because they're 90% positive, and I enjoy doing the podcast because it's just fun hearing myself talk. So I'm doing it more for pleasure or like a hobby. And then if opportunities came where I can make money, I am in a position where I can make choices. Like, well, I'm not going to make a clown out of myself for 10 grand.
Right.
Like, I don't need $10,000. Now, if it's 100,000, I might be willing to do a little something extra.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It's like,
there's a way to play it and not be like silky ganache.
Right. Which could be another entirely different podcast. But I think, yeah, when you think about, some 19-year-old on America's Next Top Model, Cycle 22, who's probably never going to go beyond that because, yes, he's super hot, but so is everyone else who looks just like him.
Right.
It's like, well, so now all you did was get on this reality show and get a bunch of pictures taken in your underwear. So now people can masturbate over that. I mean, that's really all you amounted to. Which, if that's enough for you, I guess.
Which you can parlay into an OnlyFans.
But it's like playing the lottery. Like, it could catapult you into something bigger.
Yeah.
But statistically, that doesn't happen.
Statistically, it will also eventually be your end.
I mean, when you think about the Real Housewives franchise and the number of people on the show, of all the housewives through all the seasons, we can really only name a handful of people who really parlayed that into something much bigger. Right? Like a Bethany Frankel or a Nene Leakes, or, the other ones who are very successful, they were successful beforehand.
Right.
But we can go on and on. We need to wrap this up. But you have a closing line.
Oh, my closing line was a lyric from It Takes a Muscle to Fall in Love by Spectral Display. Good or bad, come what may, you're going to live tomorrow if you don't die today.
Oh, if only we were so lucky. All right, toodaloo.
Bye.
Huh.